course, from a biblical perspective. And it's catching on very well. So join us every Wednesday. If you are hearing this for the first time, then every Wednesday from 12 noon to 1 p.m., I come on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube with a program I've entitled Lunchtime with Fathers. You can just type in the address JB Gatti and you will be there. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Check me out there. My media team is ensuring that we receive all this. Now, once you get into any of my platforms, just like the page. You can follow me there and also subscribe. Once you subscribe, and that means the moment the program begins, you get a notification. And then, most importantly, once you are there, share the page so that others follow. Good. So let's look at our program, our topic for today. Last week, I started a series on Mothers of Destiny. And from now till we celebrate Mother's Day, God willing, we will be looking at the subject of mothers in the Bible, mothers of destiny, mothers who risk their lives for their children. These are mothers who have great strength, mothers who made great sacrifices, mothers who were genuinely selfless, mothers who were grounded in steadfastness, mothers whose simplicity was just gentle. So this month, next month, and God willing, till May, we will be exploring the great strength of mothers, the godly sacrifice of mothers, the genuine selflessness of mothers, the grounded steadfastness of mothers, and the gentle simplicity of mothers. Everything mothers we want to look at. And today, last week, we started with Rebecca. And, talking about Rebecca, I have given a subtitle, A Woman to be Celebrated. A woman to be celebrated. No, Rebecca, over there, what do we do? You're there celebrating Yamanumbo, or Sunday, ne sacrifice, ne selflessness, in a oitu wama ajinkwano obey. And we will trace all this, the involvement of Rebecca in the lineage of the Messiah. Rebecca took a stand. Now, unfortunately, over the week, I listened to a program and somebody was just castrating Rebecca. Jacob Ninda Ninara Ofina Mami, and so it is from the bloodline. And I said, no, I said, no. This man should read the entire chapter and possibly read the chapter before and the chapter after so that he gets the whole story. Whole story, no. And then last week we read from Genesis chapter 25 and from verse 20. Genesis chapter 25 and from verse 20. And we learned that Isaac was about 40 years old when he married Rebecca. And for 20 years, they did not have a child because, as the Bible describes, she was barren. And, but after 20 years, I don't know what prompted Isaac, but this time Isaac pleaded with the Lord for his wife. Isaac pleaded with the Lord for his wife, and she conceived. Because when there is delayed pregnancy, the husbands leave the wives to their fate. one go to hospital, one can check up, one go to gynecologist, one go to a software, one go deliverance, one pay one anointing oil, one can a day. Then as soon as you but if you say no one was the baby. Be it as it may, so fall to the point or year no fema. If the husband can pick it up and pray and intercede for the wife, things can change. But of course, in the science is looking at the discover the sabi on your urbano container problem of the only severe is solely the fault of the man. But at least the men should know that they also have a role and a part to play in conception. Let's say, you the man, take things up. Go with your wife to the hospital. Both of you go through the test. When you draw, when you not one some pine a world call, when you not one call deliverance, and when you not one call no, wasn't one. That is if you want to, when they blame them because when Isaac is covered, the man believed, no, and he pleaded with the Lord for his wife Rebecca, and Rebecca his wife. Now, later we read the conception wasn't a funny one. Baby, Rebecca had some struggles in her system. Things were not normal, and the struggle was not a normal baby's pain. And she also went to the Lord in prayer and asked, if all is well, why am I like this? If all is well, why am I like this? And so she inquired of the Lord. And in verse 23, and this is where I want that I want that pastor to read and understand. That in verse 23, the Lord said to Rebekah, 2 nations are in your womb. 2 peoples shall be separated from your body. 1 people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. This was a prophetic word that Rebekah received, and she alone understood this. As to why Rebekah did not share this with her husband Isaac, well, maybe I may just hazard a guess here. Already, of course, when they were coming out, Jacob was holding the heel of Esau. But we read in verse 28, and Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game, but Rebekah loved Jacob, and no reason was ascribed to that. So Isaac loved Jacob because he ate of his game. Esau beye Isaac no doba usande okorum no ba onya otwibi akrantibi no the bobo no kwana me sure that Isaac na ne baby figana intina in remenam ne nwaji ho, and Esau was providing it into no yet doba. But Rebekah loved Jacob and is giving. And if we should hazard a guess, it could be because Rebekah knew by divine revelation who Jacob was. But one people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. Rebecca had this in mind. Never Jacob or your destiny child, and so she loved Jacob. She chose and preferred Jacob. Now, I mean, this is in Genesis 25. If we move on to Genesis 27, Isaac was now an old man his eyes were dim, he could not see, and he called Esau, his older son, and said to him, "My son." He answered, "Here am I." Then he said, "Behold, now I'm old." Say about Ishmael that all the families of the earth shall be blessed in you. Rather, when God blessing Isaac, listen to what he says in chapter 26, verse 4. He says, "And I will make your descendants multiply as the stars of heaven. I will give your descendants all these lands." And listen to this. "And in your seed, all the new earth shall be blessed." And so God said to Abraham, he repeated to Isaac. He repeated, which meant that Isaac inherited that blessing. Now, let's jump ahead of ourselves and get to Genesis chapter 28. In verse 14, God tells Jacob, "Also your descendants shall be as the dust of the earth. You shall spread abroad to the west and the south, to the north and to the west and the east, to the north and the south, and in you and in your seed, all the families of the earth shall be blessed." And so we see God repeating that promise to Jacob. And that is why these three are known as the patriarchs. And God is not ashamed to identify himself as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. This means that God had intended, because when we get to and God said, "Jacob I have loved, and Esau I have hated." In other words, God's preference was for Jacob, and God revealed it to Rebecca. And so for Rebecca to love Jacob means that she understood the divine revelation. You can say, Rebecca, Jacob, Rebecca, Jacob was the carrier of the blessing, the patriarchal blessing. Rebecca, the older shall serve the younger. In there, one will be stronger than the other. When you are stronger, now what on Jacob. Anything, I should work hard and get Jacob in the line, because the Rebecca I near the man, Isaac Oriye. You know, the Ishana Esau. He was handing over the blessing to Esau on the basis of food, stomach direction. But Rebecca knew by revelation. on it. Now look at this scenario. This is Isaac loved Esau and knew that Rebecca also loved Jacob. It is Rebecca Jacob. If Rebecca called Isaac, and I catch Isaac there. Oh, Nyami there, the blessing should go to Jacob. You know what Isaac would have told her if Rebecca gone to Isaac to say that, you know, God gave me a revelation and the blessing must be passed on to Jacob. I mean, look, let's be real. Isaac would have been angry because Isaac's choice son was Esau. And he all realized that Rebecca's choice son was Jacob. So if Rebecca should come and say that pass on to Jacob, he would say, I mean, of course, I'm not saying that because you have always loved Jacob. And that would have been serious. Okay, so that was one reason that we cannot fault Rebecca, because she knew by divine revelation that blessing had to be passed on to Jacob. Again, if again, know that in the ancient Hebrew culture, the oldest naturally becomes the next in line. The oldest son naturally inherits the father. So for Isaac to say it was natural. It was natural because he loved Esau. It was natural because Esau was the older. It was so unnatural and almost impossible for it to have come to Jacob, because Jacob was the younger and Jacob was loved only by the mother. And there was no way the mother would have pushed for the blessing to go to Jacob. So, for this reason, something had to happen. So Rebecca, Anyedza, Oyeyina, in Chenin, Esau, in the Jobinia. So Rebecca had to act quickly because she had that divine revelation. She brooded over this for years. Revelation beer, Onya and son were friend throughout their lives until the moment when Isaac was about to die. Now, look, I respect mothers. Only mothers know the secrets they carry. Only mothers know the destinies of their children. I remember my mom told me this, that when I was a baby, being carried on her back, she went to the market and somebody saw the baby at the back of my mother and prophesied to my mother right there and then that you are carrying a man of God. My mother never said this, but knew until I went to her after my sister to tell her that God is calling me into ministry. My mother said, I knew it. I knew it. And I thank God it's happening now. I was shocked. Only mothers know. And for Rebecca, she knew this. And so now let's look at the continuation of the story. Now, Isaac spoke to Esau, his son. And now, verse 5 and 6, quite interesting. It says, now Rebekah was listening when Isaac spoke to Esau. Yes, Esau went to the field to hunt game and bring it. So Rebekah spoke to Jacob, her son. Wow. Isaac spoke to Esau, his son. Rebekah spoke to Jacob, her son. Now, that's another thing altogether. Sibling rivalry, sibling selections by parents, and so on. But that's what we are talking about now. But Isaac not pay Esau some. There was a reason, because he was bringing home hunted game. But the number fear Isaac only. But Rebekah's love for Jacob was for that special reason there. Made up for Jacob. And so one was passing on the blessing on the basis of food. It cannot completely physical. But Rebekah said, no, this shouldn't be the case. By divine revelation, by spiritual dictation, this must not happen. Or because that's what God has said. And remember, once the blessing was imparted, there was no reversal. Said Rebekah and Ben in a Shirano core is over in Chananian. Now, have you ever asked yourself, what was Rebekah doing around at the time Isaac was talking to Esau? She heard it. But see, somehow, by divine assistance. Now, let me read this. Baby, the mother told Jacob, indeed, I heard your father speak to Esau, your brother, saying, bring me game and make me savory food, that I may eat it and bless you in the presence of the Lord before my death. Now, therefore, my son, obey my voice, according to what I command you. Go now to the flock and bring me from there 2 choice cakes of the goats, and I will make savory food from them for your father, such as he loves. And so, even what Rebekah did was dangerous, was risky. This is a man who had a good taste for bushmeat, and yet goat meat, the man couldn't tell the difference. How come Isaac could not tell? I mean, listen, but Isaac, with his special like for bushmeat, I can say no train, I couldn't tell the difference because God was in work. God had to deaden his taste buds or change his taste buds. Into all we one a functional or one nominal no or bushmeat. And he ate, his soul was filled. So that was how Rebekah heard what Isaac was saying, how she chanced upon that conversation, only God knows. How Isaac's taste buds could not be detected. Goat meat. That's another story. Even when Rebekah suggested that, Jacob protested. Jacob said to his mother, look, My brother Esau is a hairy man, and I am smooth skinned. That was another problem. Apart from the meat, this promise was, as far as the father was concerned, go to Esau, who was a hairy gentleman. And because he had lost his sight, his other senses were very much alert and developed. So Jacob was troubled. Jacob was seriously troubled. That, mommy, you know my situation. I am a smooth-skinned man. It's rather my brother who is my brother, on the other hand, is a hairy person. Now, if I go there, I go to see my father, and because he's black, he will just, feel my skin. And when he does that, he may discover that I'm not the one. And instead, he says, perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to be a deceiver to him. So Jacob himself was not a deceiver in this episode. He said, I may seem, because he was resisting. He didn't want to deceive the father. He had accepted the fact that Esau was his brother, a bigger brother. Esau was loved of the father. And he had settled for the second position. Though when they were young, something went wrong. Esau had to sell his birthright. That was even divine. I won't go there. But listen to Rebekah's response. But his mother said to him, let your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my voice and go and get them for me. You go and get them for me. Do what I am telling you. Father ever discovers and so curses you, I absolve you of that curse, because I am putting you into this. I know what I know. I know what I've seen. I know what I heard. And this blessing is yours. So go and do it. If it turns out that doesn't work, and that's a no even pour her, let it come upon me and not on you. And how can the mother be so convinced that this would work, except that she was convinced that it was purely God's will? So the mother said, oh, Rebecca, let your parents only obey your voice and obey them. What a mother. Jacob, I will hear when you there, and with Ameria, and so a chili, Ibo Ameria. Only there. Meaning Ameria, in Tower Konakaye, say, one son can share so Oria than Ndomia, Marancasa, Ndomino Umbra Mado. Then Rebecca didn't there on done Ndomita, because Nyame in that room, Nyame a catcher. So, Otsuna, who went to Anamona in Che in Shadow Fabon, in Chenyan Coupon the Boshano, in Chawambim Aman, and Bim Amanaba, in Chehan, in Hansa Yeti, in Chayam Baye, Abraham Nasifo. Until Rebecca said the day. Rebecca took the choice clothes of her elder son and put them on Jacob, her younger son. And she put the skins of the kids of the goats on his hand and on the smooth parts of his neck. Rebecca wasn't a deceiver. But even another man, me and you are building here. Only mothers know. There may be women, and so try to beat her son. Na shede se mami na rankasa bona boso na onye wo mbokwa. Obandama awodini bi go shohonumu. It happens even in the animal kingdom. If you are trying to be akukọ no ba, on found there say ye mentwi a akukọ na onye mbokwa. If you could be a lion, akukọ na onye mbokwa. There, it's one side and it is the same in humans. You dare not touch the son or the child of a mother or that shroud there on the inside of a smart. I mean, sometimes you would there, my me, you pony, you quick or my me, or prepare obo, and so my mini big Gina will defend the neighbor, don't know. And that is mothers for you. Only no today is celebrate mothers or the year. Now you celebrate the Bible can honor your mother and your father. One of the best gifts you can give your mother. Listen to me, young ladies. One of the best gifts you can give to your mother is to wait and be married off. One day you want to say, when you are from Kamu. That is the greatest day in the life of every mother. Self-actualization. And Nebiara, look, I phone at my econo, I yet 1 hour no, and none one is there. Shamusima woman do, Yamusima was south because on swap be about in the another wako work would be never in the and yeah, members of my main routine. Now, is my mom come and report in Chilhuna. Last year, our daughter got married. Now, Mankasa in the moon of my mina for fear the brother. That day, no, or mother and Kasa, ma, me, your hobby, my me, and wow. Today, no, we have chosen iPhone. Now, my do or share Mitchell engagement. I seen a wedding. I sing na mama, you know, who dead. Yes, Resana, ya, you fruit you, mama. I mean, she was so excited. The wedding, the marriage ceremony was completely hers. I didn't want G. Sabi never small mo be about fano sorrow or the niti or the mano. Inti she says oh me there or be about war never ban nansuma mamino never ni kuninu crampo afana kaho die I mean eshe ba odu do never no kuna it's amazing. Osande nebano or your hand daughter no or shende yam. Listen, mothers don't play down on these things. Intimately say your baby's here. My woman mean the name J. Snasino being by your money. Nephew of all Hobbity and another Kenyan said, not the baby and I will hold. I will hold. Your mothers deserve more than that. Make their day. And your being see about her. She shall back Kenya no man, the mama mean she shall on one to cool. Now on that slim. Now on said, what does a mother need from you? Than the ever manuaji. There also our at any appetite. Now when there were people one Sometimes when you are doing this, think about your mother. They have carried secrets about you. The wofem a yewa wofem wa wom and a genuine yeti yewan on a mountain, one hour ton one and Tumanadi what to show was school. When you know, why do you repay them with this reckless? Why can't you for just one day in their life before they die? Imman Kraten Sanam Bade Ena. I want to challenge you. Awara ewarno oye enyiza etzirma woman, and every mother looks forward to that. Sorry, I deviated, but you know, over here, they're back on the massing. Ain't you know, Rebecca absolved Jacob of any curse. Now, in there, I have completed the story. By Nyamiya Duma next week, now Yaba Shada Yasha Rebecca and Kasankasa. And from Rebecca's story, we will pick up five. First of all, we will pick up a mother's pain. A mother's pain. A yawa and nanumwofim. We will understand this. Then we will also understand a mother's prayer. A mother's prayer. Empire and nanumwobo. Onam zawo feminsi. And I'm when you empire, woman me a big wutsido. Eruko erba neri yer. And my many year mancha, we yerba ne yerno, wa bonu mundo, now wato. A mother's prayer. So we look at a mother's pain, we will look at a mother's prayer, and we will look at a mother's preference. Then sina and now what a na odon for all you know, there is a divine reason. We will look at a mother's plan. If we don't know the risk mothers go through to get things for us. Look, those days, when we were growing up, we had friends. But then there were other boys who were very naughty. And you know, their fathers will spank them and tell them, we are not giving you food. No, I'll lock one ash in them. Trust me, a mother or secretly, though initially she will agree, the young punish her faith and so would be there and then good cannot. Feed the child. Oh, and then the same man who will report a child to the father, when that father is disciplining the child or spanking the child, that same mother will intervene. The mother who wants the child caned and so has waited for the father to come home and reported the child. When the father is administering the discipline, this same mother will intervene. Don't joke with mothers. They have a plan. So, a mother's pain, a mother's prayer, a mother's preference, a mother's plan, and finally, we will look at a mother's power. A mother's power. How Rebecca able to do all these things. So, God willing, next week we will take this up, and that is when you will know that Rebecca indeed was a mother of destiny. Remember, we are looking at mothers of destiny. The first woman we are looking at is Rebecca. I just love the story of Rebecca. And God willing, next week we will continue in details about the nature, the character of Rebecca. So until then, I pray that the good Lord will bless you. And the one fine chair, back at the Brofono, I also as and so also be more betting it. Let me repeat this. Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, and every Wednesday, noon, 1 o'clock p.m. Over Facebook, over Instagram, over YouTube. Now,